Hey, what's up homies, my name is SlyFoxTown and welcome to my first Smite God review and first impressions. And this time we're gonna start with a bang. We're gonna start with Thor,
God of Thunder.
So this is the part where a few of my people that haven't ever played a MOBA game or any games like this, like League of Legends or Smite itself or anything, will go, what the fuck? What are you talking about? But I'll try to break it down to very casual gamer terms, because that's what I am. I'm a very casual gamer, but I've been getting really into Smite. So let me explain what Mr. Thor here pertains to and what does his traits and abilities do and all this jazz. You ready? Okay, let's go. So let's break down Thor, shall we? Thor is an AD melee tanky fighter. And if you have no idea what I just said, or you're like, what is this foreign language about video games that you're speaking of, SlyFox? Let me help you out with that so you guys have an idea of what we're gonna be talking about. So there's usually two kinds of characters in these kind of games, in these mobile games. They're AD characters and AP characters. Thor, being an AD, really benefits on attack damage, which that's what I think personally what it's called. I might be completely wrong, but I'm using newbie casual gamer terms so you guys can benefit from learning from this. So Thor, as an AD character, all his abilities stack up with items that do physical damage. And the other side of this, AP, if you're wondering what the fuck is AD and AP again, AP is, at least for me, the best way I can say it, is magic. Such as a character as Anubis or Ra, they really benefit from using their abilities because their abilities are pretty much what deal the most damage. Whereas in Thor, yes, his abilities do a lot of damage or do a significant good amount of damage, but his basics definitely do a good chunk of damage too. So hopefully that can help you out with the whole terms of AD, AP. AD, you know, attack damage. Persons that use physical attacks and their abilities stack up or keep going up with physical items. Whereas in AP magic, they're not going to be as good with using like basic attacks, but their abilities are really going to shine with all these magical items. Hopefully that can break it down. That was a really poor, shitty way to interpret this, but if anybody out there that's a pro out there in Smite or League of Legends wants to break it down even more, you're more than welcome to break it down in the comment section. I'm just giving you a very casual term so you guys know what's going on. So this is the part where I tell you about Thor's abilities and your pants take off like a rocket ship. It's crazy. Yep, let's talk about all 5 abilities that Thor has. And if you're wondering, Sly, you can only use 4 abilities. Are you talking shit out of your asshole? No, I'm not. Because each god has 5 abilities, including the passive ability. If you guys are wondering, what the hell is a passive ability? What does it mean? It's pretty much like a onto ability that each god has. It's like their special secret that pretty much identifies them. And I can give you an example of another person that has an awesome ability or a passive ability. Ra, the super ultra mega chicken. His passive ability is every time he uses an ability, let's say his ray of lighting or whatever you want to call it, he gains a speed buff. And with Thor, he's pretty much in your face, I'm gonna whoop your ass ability, meaning Warrior's Madness. Warrior Madness allows Thor to gain plus 20 attack for each enemy god that he's near. So the sad thing about this is only stacking until 3, which kind of makes it a little bit balanced. I understand that, but let's say you're in a fight and you decide to just go and just wreck face. Let me be the tank and let me just start the fight. As soon as you enter the battle, and let's say there's 3 to 4 people, you gain 60 plus attacks damage for free. Holy shit. So that makes him a big threat in team fights. And that's good, I guess. That's where I kind of see where they wanted to make Thor a kind of tanky character. Because if they really made him really super attack damagey, he would have been super OP and they would have had to nerf him in a heartbeat. Personally, right now I feel that as a character he might be a little bit weak, but that's just maybe my playstyle. I like characters that do a lot of damage. I'm all into the whole AD carry, AP carry, all this other crap. But that's the first ability. Every time that you're surrounding yourself with enemies, for each one you get plus 20 and it only stacks up to 3 times. So maybe take that into consideration when you go into team fights with Thor. Alright? So now let's talk about his active abilities. This 1, 2, 3, and 4. And obviously all these abilities have really cool names, but I, being the Puerto Rican dumbass that I am, don't know how to say it properly. So I'm just gonna call it the hammer throw. Because essentially that's what you do. You throw your hammer. So hammer throw is a straight line boomerang effect kind of deal ability. And if you're wondering, what does this mean? Well, I throw my hammer and it just comes back at me like a boomerang. And it hits everybody in front of me. But the cool part is that this ability has two trade-offs and kind of meh. Alright, so it does the same damage to every single minion or every single monster you hit the first time you throw it. And in the comeback, it will do half of the damage that it normally did. So let's say if I were to throw my hammer, I hit all the minions for 100 damage. When it comes back, it only does 50 damage. So that's a good 150 damage attack that you have there that hits everybody in the same group. It doesn't lose its stacks or its power as it hits all the minions. It's true to everybody. Everybody that gets hit at first get 100 damage, and the return gets 50. But there's another thing with this ability. If you were to hit a god with this, let's say I throw my hammer at Anubis and it hits him for 100, the return damage of that hammer is 200. It gets double. So in total, you're getting pretty much double the amount of damage that you did to the minions and double the damage when it returns, leaving me with a 300 solid damage hit points on somebody. And early game, a good hammer throw can definitely mean the complete change of a game of getting pretty much fed in the beginning. It's pretty fucking awesome. His second ability is called Tectonic Rift. And pretty much to anybody that play Pokemon, it's Fissure. You create a ground fissure that just goes in a straight line and pretty much doesn't let any minions or god go through that for the time that it's up. So you can use this ability to cut people off from going or escaping. It's pretty useful for him because there's times where I've been like, oh my god, I'm gonna get ganked by 10 people. That's an over exaggeration, obviously. But let's say I'm getting ganked by 3 people. If I decide to use my Tectonic Rift, cut the path off, I can actually make that maybe 3-man gank into a 1v1. So it's very smart and it's very, you gotta be very careful how you go about using this because this can help you stop getting ganked or getting killed or having a friend getting killed, but it can also put you in a position where you pretty much made yourself an easy target. So be really careful with this. It's an awesome mechanism and I love the animation of it. It's fucking rad. But be really careful and be smart with this ability because it could be the difference between saving a friend or pretty much allowing your whole team getting ganked and destroyed. So be careful with that one. So Thor's third ability is called Berserker's Barrage. And essentially what Thor does, he grabs his hammer and decides to go crazy apeshit and spins it like a crazy madman. And anybody close enough to his area of effect or just close enough to his hammer will get constant damage every second. And on top of that, while Thor is doing this, he's immune to slows and knockups. So it's a really good ability to not only use in an offensive start. Let's say you want to go and jump in on the team and you don't have your ultimate, you can use this ability and you'll guarantee yourself from not being slow or knocked up, which is really good in team fights. Because sometimes when you go into team fights, it's just a CC central. Everybody just crowd controls the shit out of you, and this is a good way to not be crowd controlled by using this ability. So my favorite ability in all Smite is Anvil of Dawn, Thor's ultimate, his fourth ability. And essentially what he does is he swings his hammer for a few seconds to get enough momentum to jump in the air and fly, which allows you to have this crazy vision of the whole map. Enough sometimes, I believe, to go from middle lane to left lane and vice versa in an instant. And while you're in air, you remain in air for a good 3 to 4 seconds, I believe. And then you get to pick an area where you would like to land. When you do land, if there's a god there, anybody like a minion or a monster, they get a little bit of damage and they're stunned for I believe 1 to 2 seconds. I don't know if this scales up as you keep like leveling up this ability, but they get stunned as you land. The one thing that you guys should be aware of, this ability does not do a lot of damage. This is not a very damaging ability. This ability is pretty much to initiate battles. Let's say you're in a Skype call with your friends and say, hey, I have my ultimate, let's jump on this person. Like, alright, well, use your ultimate and we'll just wait for it. I use my ultimate, they see me in the air. As soon as they see me land, everybody's stunned in that circle that I just landed, and they can just completely destroy the whole team. So pretty much one of the coolest abilities out there. Love it. The animation is fucking flawless, and it just makes me feel like a fucking badass, because no god out there can actually go to this point and fly and see the whole map. So kudos to Smite, the whole team in Smite, because it's one of the funnest characters to play so far. And I guess to wrap it up for this review and whatnot, the best way to build this character obviously is tanky. You can throw some damage in there. Personally, you'll be using Thor to initiate fights, to go in there and just whoop some ass. The recommended build seems pretty spot on to what I would pick. Always go for a Frostbound Hammer right away as your second item. That way, every time you go into fights, you hit the one guy and they're slow. That way you can pick people off. But so far, the build that is in recommended build seems pretty straightforward. I like it. You can go and experiment with your own builds. You might even want to throw maybe a Gem of Isolation there, so every time you use an ability, they get slow, on top of the fact that, let's say if you have the Frostbound Hammer and you decide to get the Gem of Isolation, this item itself, every time you use an ability, anybody that gets hit by this ability gets slow, so it's like double Stone City. So maybe you just want to build super tanky and have these two items with you. That way you are legit a crowd controller and help your team win in many different fights. And to everybody watching this, thank you so much for watching. This has been my very poorly made God review, but hopefully you guys liked it. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is SlyFoxSound, and this has been my first impression of Thor, the God of Thunder. Take care, homies. I'll see you later. Ah!